And some people do come to that point. Some people, when harm comes to them, when evil comes their way, their response is, God failed me. This Christianity stuff doesn't work. Or I'm going to have to say, I failed God, right? This was absolutely God's intention. However, I got in the way. I didn't have enough faith. Had I just exercised enough faith, then I wouldn't be in this predicament, in this situation. Or, God's not the only player in the game. So, God's plans for me are welfare and not evil or not harm. God's plan for me is to give me a future and a hope. There's another player in the game who plans the opposite. Sometimes God wins, sometimes he wins. These are just some of the mental gymnastics that we have to do in order to hold on to the kind of reading of this that many wish to hold on to. And it just doesn't work. Amen? It just doesn't work. Number one, my God is God. He doesn't fail. He's never failed me. He can't fail me. Amen? Well, the problem with the second one, I failed God. Do you know what the problem with that is? The problem with that is not that, I didn't fail God. The problem with that is I always fail God. Amen? The problem with that is that there's sometimes, if you believe that this particular thing happened because in this instance I failed God, what's wrong with you is that you believe there are other instances where you didn't. Can't say amen, you ought to say ouch. I've never earned anything from the hand of God. I've never been good enough, smart enough, right enough, righteous. I've never, ever, ever. It's all of grace. Amen? And the problem with the last one, right? There's another player in the game. The problem with that one is that it presents a God in heaven who just says, I really was hoping that one worked out for you, but the devil's just so mean and he just got to help you if that's your God. None of those are right. So what is? Right back to Princess Bride theology. You keep on using that verse. I do not think it means what you think it means, and it doesn't. And in order to understand what it does mean, by the way, it is optimistic, just not in that way. Amen? It's incredibly optimistic, and we need to view it as optimistic. We need to view this whole episode as optimistic, especially because I believe that this is one of the best pictures of the outworking of an optimistic eschatology. Like, what does it really mean? Think about that for a moment. What does it really mean to have an optimistic eschatology? Does it mean you just sleep better at night because you're not scared? It has to mean something more than that. And it does. And we see that here in this text. So first, what I want to do is I want to demonstrate why this text doesn't mean what many think it means. And don't get mad at me. If this is your life verse, I'm just going to take it away for a minute. I'm going to give it back, all right? I promise I'm going to give it back. You're going to have to let it go for just a bit, right? For just a bit. It's kind of like the child with their, favorite little plush toy, and the plush toy's dirty and torn up, and the stuffing is falling out, and you just want to fix it for them. They don't want to let it go, right? You're like, okay, just just let me have, I'm going to give it back, and it's going to be better. Amen? So, first thing we have to do is we have to put this in context. And as we put this in context, I want to share with you a theological principle, and this is a theological principle that you would use if you're trying to teach a hermeneutical principle. If you were trying to teach hermeneutics to a child, and I've got 9 of them, so I've done this before, a time or two, right? Here's the principle. We always teach them about the principle of context, right? That's important. But then there's another principle. A text can't mean what it never meant. Amen? A text can't mean what it never meant. In other words, you can't go to Jeremiah 29:11 and have Jeremiah 29:11 in its context. And in its context mean something completely different than the way that you use it, and still come away saying, my use is legitimate, because that's what it means altogether to me. I could not care less what this verse means to you. Amen? How it applies to you, we can talk about that. But what it means to you, could not care less. What it means to me, completely and utterly irrelevant. The only point is, what does it mean? Full stop. Amen? So when we look at the context, we go back to verse 1. The context takes us to a very familiar place, to the place where we were last night. These are the words of the letter that Jeremiah the prophet sent from Jerusalem to the surviving elders of the exiles, and to the priests, the prophets, all the people whom Nebuchadnezzar had taken into exile from Jerusalem to Babylon. That's what we read about in Daniel. Remember that? So Jeremiah is writing a letter to folks like Daniel, who had been taken into exile after 597 by Nebuchadnezzar. This was after King Jeconiah, the queen mother, the eunuchs, the officials of Judah and Jerusalem, the craftsmen and the metalworkers had departed from Jerusalem. The letter was sent by the hand of Elasah, the son of Shaphan, and Gemariah, the son of Hilkiah, whom Zedekiah, king of Judah, sent to Babylon, to Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. So contextually, Jeremiah 29:11 is part of a letter. Amen? It's part of a letter. It's part of a letter that was written to a specific group of people in a specific place under specific circumstances during a specific time. Amen? A specific group of people. These are people from Judah who've been taken into exile. Specific place, they're in exile in Babylon. Specific time, sometime after 597, but before the complete fall of Judah. In other words, if this is written in a letter to a specific group of people in a specific place, in a specific time, under specific circumstances, and you are not part of that specific group of people, this is not that specific place, this is not that specific time, and these are not those specific circumstances, it was not written to you. Amen, somebody. It was not written to you. I didn't say it doesn't apply to you, but it was not written to you. And there is a difference. There's a difference between something that was written to you directly and the way that you just sort of take that, right, and bring that in and apply that immediately, and something that was written to somebody else that requires you to take a step.
Please subscribe and hit the notification bell for more truth and to spread the light of Jesus Christ.